You passed out on stage. You passed out before the incident.
I got a stroke when I fell down, and I seen his blue eyes still looking at me. I what now? What happened? So he did what every cat do when she has a litter. He picked me up by the neck and put me to the side before you know.
Like a mother with a cub.
Oh yeah, he wanted to care me. He said my artery is absolutely blessing because das can lead to blood pressure. Otherwise you will be brain dead.
By the early fall of 2003, Roy Horn, one half of the world-famous illusionist duo Siegfried and Roy, was living a kind of Las Vegas royalty few performers ever achieve. For decades, the German-born magician and animal trainer had enthralled millions alongside his lifelong stage partner and friend, Siegfried Fischbacher. Their show at the Mirage wasn't just another Vegas act, it was the Vegas act, a multi-million-dollar spectacle of tigers, pyrotechnics, and impossible illusions that had come to define the Strip's modern era. For years, Horn and Fischbacher had been fixtures in the city, masters of their craft, envied for their artistry and the otherworldly bond they seemed to share not only with each other, but with the massive white tigers that prowled the stage. By 2003, they had performed together more than 30,000 times, grossed over $1 billion in ticket sales, and built an empire of mystery, opulence, and danger. But behind the glittering facade of the Mirage showroom, things were changing. Horn was in his late 50s, still performing with trademark precision and charisma, but those close to the duo sensed the years of nightly shows and the physical demands of working with 400-pound cats were taking their toll. In interviews, Horn often spoke of his animals as spiritual beings, describing their relationship as one of trust and love beyond words. Yet the danger was always there, lurking beneath the glamour, the unspoken reality that every night he was walking on stage beside apex predators who could, in a split second, turn on him. As Siegfried and Roy approached their 6,000th Mirage performance, and with a combined net worth north of $100 million, Roy began talking about scaling back, focusing more on conservation efforts, perhaps even retiring from the stage. But the show went on, because for Siegfried and Roy, there simply was no life without spectacle. On the night of October 3, 2003, the Mirage Theater was packed with 1,500 fans, many celebrating Roy's 59th birthday week. The performance began like countless others, dazzling lights, thunderous applause, and a parade of white tigers moving in perfect harmony. Midway through the act, Roy stepped forward with a 7-year-old male tiger named Manticore, an animal he had hand-raised from birth. What happened next remains a matter of controversy and heartbreak. During a sequence that involved Manticore responding to verbal cues, the tiger suddenly deviated from its mark. Witnesses later described a brief moment of confusion. Roy tried to correct the animal, then seemed to stumble. In an instant, Manticore lunged and clamped his jaws around Roy's neck and dragged him off stage. Stagehands and trainers rushed in using fire extinguishers and other tigers to distract Manticore before freeing Roy. The audience, frozen in disbelief, thinking it was part of the act, until the curtain dropped. Backstage, chaos erupted. Paramedics stabilized Roy, who had lost a massive amount of blood and suffered a crushed windpipe and severe spinal injuries. He was rushed to University Medical Center in Las Vegas, where he spent hours in surgery. Miraculously, he survived, though he would never regain full mobility or return to the stage. In the aftermath, the Mirage permanently closed Siegfried and Roy, ending one of the longest-running acts in entertainment history. In later interviews, Roy maintained that Manticore had not attacked him, but had actually tried to save him after he suffered a stroke on stage and fainted, a claim that divided animal behavior experts and was contradicted by other witnesses, but reflected the deep affection Roy still had for the creature that nearly killed him. Although the show's epic run in Vegas came to a sudden end that night, Roy Horn spent the next 17 years of his life as a living legend in Las Vegas, retreating from the stage but remaining a beloved figure in Sin City. He devoted his later life to recovery, animal conservation, and preserving the legacy he and Siegfried had built. Then, on May 8, 2020, Horn passed away from complications related to COVID-19, marking the final curtain for one half of one of the most spectacular partnerships in entertainment history. Roy Horn was 75 years old. I'm Derek Kaufman.
I'm Jason Beckerman.
And this is Last Days, Roy Horn.
When the news broke that Roy Horn had died from COVID-related complications, Las Vegas and the wider entertainment world sat stunned. Celebrities, politicians, entertainers, and longtime fans flooded social media and news outlets with tributes. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto and Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman both expressed grief, saying Horn had helped shape the spirit of the city. Wayne Newton, who shared a bond with Siegfried and Roy as fellow Vegas icons, offered condolences to Siegfried and all of Roy's loved ones. Magicians and peers saw it more personally. Penn Jillette called Roy, quote, full of life, wild and unpredictable, adding, we will miss him. And Chris Angel, part of the contemporary wave of Vegas magic and spectacle acts, tweeted, quote, thank you for your kindness, inspiration, and friendship. You paved the road and will forever be missed. And, of course, Siegfried Fischbacher, Roy's longtime stage partner and friend, voiced the deepest loss. In his public statement, Siegfried said, quote, today, the world has lost one of the greats of magic, but I have lost my best friend. There could be no Siegfried without Roy, and no Roy without Siegfried. In the hours following the announcement, tribute posts and candlelight vigils appeared outside hospitals. Fans held up white tiger imagery, and the marquees of MGM properties in the Mirage reportedly dimmed their lights in respect.
Despite the grand spectacles Roy had been a part of during his career, the public memorials were somewhat muted, primarily due to the COVID-19 restrictions then in place. His funeral was reportedly private, with plans for a public memorial later when conditions permitted. A few local outlets in Las Vegas covered small gatherings of fans, and there was special attention on the legacy of the duo's secret garden and dolphin habitat and their role in transforming Vegas entertainment. But due to the enhanced safety precautions in place, and particularly given the COVID-related cause of his death, the best remembrances of his life came from published obituaries that remembered Horn as an international figure in magic and animal performance, citing his long partnership with Siegfried and their spectacular show in Vegas.
I think we need to talk for a second about how important they were to Vegas. Obviously, it's a very different place now. Right now, it is really dominated by the biggest stars, musical stars in the world going and have these residencies. Then it was much more about these kind of performers that would be associated with the hotel in which they were.
Yes.
Right? You had sort of Elvis, I think, started this entire thing.
Sure.
This was the first huge act. And then you'd have people like Roy Horn. They were at the Mirage forever. And you'd have this kind of thing at a specific hotel for a long time. And they were insanely famous. I know they've kind of been lost to history, but through the 80s and 90s and into 2000s, they were like everybody knew who they are.
And we'll talk about it when we get more into their legacy, but truly the production value behind the Siegfried and Roy show was a difference in kind. You're right. Elvis sort of started all of this. Vegas as a destination for entertainment rather than just gambling and carousing with your friends.
Right. And then it was the Rat Pack and everybody.
You had the Rat Pack. You had all of that. The production value on those shows, though, you had singers past their prime, on stage, and that was the draw. You had Elvis in his big jumpsuit, but Siegfried and Roy, they brought tigers on stage. They had pyrotechnics. They had laser light shows. It was really ahead of its time, and it was when the Strip was really building up. You had Luxor, and you had all of these grand casinos.
The Mirage itself was one of the big new Vegas resorts that nobody saw coming, and sort of became the destination on the Strip, and it changed everything when it came.
They were the center of that. They really truly were. There were other acts that are just as important and big, but many followed in the wake of Siegfried and Roy, just capturing the imagination of people who visited the city.
Yeah, the real spectacle of it all. Unlike the dramatic investigation following the 2003 tiger mauling that ended Roy's performing career, his 2020 death from COVID-19 did not prompt lawsuits or criminal inquiries. No public legal actions have surfaced alleging negligence on medical providers or facilities, and no official investigative controversies were reported in connection with his death. The main legal matters in the aftermath centered on his estate and final wishes. Horn had named Siegfried, his longtime collaborator and friend, as executor of his will. The will was filed publicly in Las Vegas courts in June 2020, directing that Siegfried would handle distribution of his assets.
Roy Horn's story didn't begin under stage lights or in the glimmer of the Mirage. It began in post-war Germany, where a boy with an unusual fascination for animals would grow up to redefine modern entertainment. Born Huey Ludwig Horn in 1944 in Nordenham, he was raised amid hardship during the end of World War II. But even as a child, he had an instinctive connection to creatures large and small. While other children played outside, Roy could often be found quietly observing nature or caring for stray animals. That bond would shape his entire life. In his early teens, restless and ambitious, Roy left school and found work abroad on a cruise ship called the Bremen as a bellboy. Fate intervened when he crossed paths with another young German entertainer, Siegfried Fischbacher, a magician who performed illusions for passengers. Siegfried's show was small, but his charm and technical skill fascinated Roy, who asked how the tricks were done. Siegfried purportedly replied, quote, "Magic is believing in yourself. If you can do that, you can make anything happen." And that fateful exchange on a cruise ship became the foundation of a lifelong partnership. Roy soon became part of Siegfried's act, at first assisting with small illusions and handling props, but Roy had an idea that would transform them both, incorporating live animals into the magic show and integrating them into one incredible spectacle for the audience. One night, Horn smuggled a cheetah from a zoo onto the ship to surprise Siegfried mid-performance. The animal, astonishingly, stayed calm. The audience gasped, and Siegfried and Roy was born.
That's such a wild story.
It is really
Smuggled
wild.
a cheetah onto a cruise ship.
On a cruise ship.
And thank goodness it was calm.
And it was because it was calm and no one was mauled in the audience that we had the birth of one of the most important franchises in Vegas history.
That is a wild story.
The two men were promptly fired from the ship for, bringing a live cheetah into their show, but they had stumbled upon something entirely unique in an entertainment world saturated with the same old stuff. Over the next several years, they performed in European nightclubs, slowly perfecting a show that blended exotic...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I got to go back to this. Where did he find a live cheetah?
At a zoo.
He just stole it from the zoo?
It sounds like he absconded with the cheetah in some way. We need a deeper dive.
He got a cheetah. I mean, do you go into a cheetah pen and grab a cheetah?
Yeah. Do you do it alone?
Do you
try to drug it first?
A leash?
Yeah. I don't know if you can walk a cheetah. I don't know if you can. Good luck getting a leash on a cheetah. I think you got to blow a dart into him and take him.
Derek, I'm disappointed. I need answers to these questions about how the hell.
That's for a later episode of Behind the Bar when we discuss the legal repercussions of stealing that cheetah. But over the next several years, they performed in European nightclubs, slowly perfecting a show that blended exotic animals, precision illusion, and theatrical storytelling. Their partnership evolved beyond simple stagecraft into a kind of symbiosis. Siegfried, the architect of the illusion, and Roy, the empath and animal whisperer, each drawing power from the other.
Their big break came in 1967 when they were invited to perform in a show at the Tropicana in Las Vegas. At the time, the city's entertainment scene revolved around lounge singers, comics, and variety acts designed to keep gamblers in their seats. Siegfried and Roy were something different, young, European, and exotic, with a flair for high drama and danger. Their early performances were short segments within larger reviews, but they quickly became the talk of the Strip. As their reputation grew through the 70s and 80s, they moved up from opening acts to headliners. By 1990, they became the main attraction at the Mirage, signing one of the most lucrative entertainment contracts in Las Vegas history. Their 90-minute spectacle combined magic, storytelling, pyrotechnics, choreography, and the appearance of majestic white lions and tigers, animals that became their personal signature and a living metaphor for the harmony between wilderness and wonder. They were real showmen, and you can hear how the shows were steeped in mystery and theatrics even before the animals entered the stage.
Once upon a time, in the Himalayas, there lived a mysterious tiger, white as snow, with eyes of blue ice. The phantom beast was thought to be a messenger of the gods, born with mythic powers. But an evil queen threatened to kill off the enchanted animals. Tonight, myth becomes mystery as Siegfried and Roy harness the secret forces of nature to create the world's greatest magic.
Jason, when you hear that clip, you get a sense of the types of shows they were putting on, to your point earlier, were bigger and different than what was in Vegas before. I don't want to call Vegas a backwater. It went through several phases. You had the old Mafia Vegas, then you brought in, the Rat Pack, and then you brought in Elvis. But what they did was a tremendous leap forward in terms of what Vegas was. It was a destination now.
I used to go to Vegas with my parents, and they would go and see a show, and it was never something that I had any interest in seeing, whatever. It was, like you said, retired singers that were popular when my parents were kids in the 50s and 60s. And they came along and they were something different. They were things that kids wanted to go see, Siegfried and Roy. It was a spectacle that was not meant for aging parents. It was meant for everybody, for families and little kids, and they were a thing. I made the point earlier. It's been I think it's been sadly lost to time. We work with younger people who just don't know who these folks are, but they were enormous. Everybody knew who they were. They were totally ubiquitous.
I want to point out there were illusionists before, and there, David Copperfield, Chris Angel has come on the scene, but no one incorporated the live animals. Penn and Teller were gigantic, but to have the magic with the spectacle and the fantasy and the tigers, It truly was something different.
I think to that point, they weren't just performing shows, they were shaping the identity of Vegas, what it would become, sort of bridging that gap from what it was to what it would eventually become. Siegfried and Roy were transforming Vegas from a gambling mecca into an international entertainment destination, and their act helped lead the change. What Elvis had done to the Vegas residency, Siegfried and Roy did for the spectacle. They made the show itself the attraction, a reason to travel, dress up, and experience awe. The Mirage built a custom theater just for them, complete with hydraulic lifts, fog effects, and hidden enclosures for the big cats. They reportedly performed more than 5,700 shows to sold-out audiences, generating hundreds of millions of dollars and defining a new era for the Strip. In doing so, they helped establish the model for the large-scale immersive residencies that would follow, productions that blended art, illusion, and technology on an unprecedented scale.
Their impact on Vegas and the broader entertainment landscape rippled through the decades. Cirque du Soleil, which would later dominate the Las Vegas show scene, adopted the theatrical storytelling and immersive production design Siegfried and Roy pioneered. Modern illusionists like David Copperfield, Chris Angel, and Penn and Teller have all acknowledged the duo's influence, particularly their ability to combine intimacy with grandeur, the sense that even amid roaring spectacle, the audience was sharing a personal experience. The fingerprints of their influence can also be seen in modern Vegas residencies by artists like Celine Dion, Elton John, and Adele, who approach performance as theater, not just concert. Indeed, the physical and cultural architecture of modern Las Vegas undeniably reflects their influence. The Mirage's success helped inspire a wave of themed mega resorts that turned the Strip into a fantasy land of visual storytelling, from the pyramids of Luxor to the canals of the Venetian. The duo's white tigers became as recognizable as the Eiffel Tower and Statue of Liberty replicas carved into the Vegas skyline. They were a symbol of Las Vegas itself, dangerous, dazzling, and impossibly beautiful. Even the grand spectacle of current shows at the Sphere, with their interactive sensory elements for the audience like smoke, wind, and rain elements, bear some of the hallmarks of the immersive shows Siegfried and Roy developed decades earlier, proving that Vegas could sustain artistry and emotion, not just flash and neon.
And despite retiring the show more than 20 years ago after Roy's near-fatal incident on stage, the legend of the duo has only grown with time. Roy and Siegfried spent their later years out of the spotlight, tending to their animals at the secret garden of the Mirage and living among the creatures that had defined their art. They remained symbols of a time when entertainment was fearless, when illusionists dared to merge men and beast, spectacle and spirit. Their story is still told as part of Las Vegas lore, not just as a cautionary tale about risk, but as a testament to human imagination.
Roy Horn's life was built on moments of extraordinary trust. Trust with his partner, Siegfried. Trust with creatures capable of lethal instinct. Trust with the audience that magic could bridge reality and wonder. One story captures this better than any eulogy. In the early days of their act, Roy once slowed the show mid-performance to tend to a tiger that seemed troubled. Rather than panic or rush through, he knelt on stage, placing a hand on the animal's flank, his voice soft. The audience held its breath. The tiger corrected its posture, settled, and the show resumed, as though Roy had whispered calm into chaos. That gesture, small and quiet, symbolized his essence, the delicate balance of authority and compassion, and the belief that magic lived in relationship, not domination. Nearly a quarter century after their show was abruptly ended, Roy's impact remains etched into Las Vegas, in every theater that aspires to dazzle, in every illusionist who blends danger with poetry, and in the very way the city pitches itself not as a gambling hub, but as a place you go to see the impossible. The image of Siegfried and Roy dressed in resplendent costumes among majestic white tigers endures as one of the great visual signatures of 20th century spectacle. And so I thought it only fitting to let the other half of this iconic duo, Siegfried, who passed fewer than 8 months after Roy from pancreatic cancer at the age of 81, have the final word, heard here talking about the, quote, secret sauce of their partnership.
What was the secret sauce between the two of you on stage?
You know, I really don't know. First of all, we have been a very good team, Siegfried and Roy. And the way how it always worked was we challenged each other.